Hello everyone, and welcome to our third and final webinar for International Coastal Cleanup Day. You can view recordings of previous webinars on the Wise YouTube channel to learn more about plastic pollution and how you can help. Today, we dive deeper into how to successfully lead your own cleanup during September to help you feel prepared and maximize your impact on the shoreline. My name is Angie, and I'm joined by my colleague Katia. We're both specialists for the Wise Shoreline Cleanup team and have led over 60 cleanups between the two of us, so we're really excited to share our knowledge with you on leading your own event. To kick us off, unusual items are always a fun thing to share at cleanups, and this can even be a great way to add some friendly competition to your event. Share in the chat your most unusual item you've ever found at cleanups. Here are some of the items we've found during our 30 years of cleanups. A bike frame, a shopping cart, a pair of dentures, and an old stop sign. Unusual items never cease to amaze me, and it really makes you wonder how these things end up in our parks and other locations. For those of you joining for the first time, I'd like to provide some information on OceanWise, a globally focused conservation organization on a mission to restore and protect our ocean. Through research, education, public engagement, and international collaborations, we empower communities to fight three major ocean challenges: ocean pollution, overfishing, and climate change. To fight these challenges, we have 5 initiatives within our organization. Seaforestation, which is restoring and building kelp forests. Our Fisheries and Seafood Program, which is probably our most well-recognized one if you've seen our little logo on any seafood products you've bought at your local supermarket. Whales, plastics, where the Shoreline Cleanup Program falls under, and youth and education. You can learn more about each of our initiatives on ocean.org. And now I'd like to pass it over to Katia to tell you more about International Coastal Cleanup Day and the impact we've had at OceanWise over the years.
All right, thank you, Angie. Now let's dive into the impact of OceanWise and our dedicated volunteers who have been part of the global movement of International Coastal Cleanup Day. The main purpose of International Coastal Cleanup Day is to engage volunteers worldwide in removing trash from the environment and, of course, to gather important data on the types and amounts of trash collected, which helps to inform and drive environmental policies and practices. Just over the past 5 years, we have had over 20,000 volunteers removing 70,976 kilograms of trash from the environment and cleaned almost 2,500 kilometers of shoreline. And all of this has been done through 1,442 cleanups that have been registered in our portal. Now, we know that the impact of those numbers is hard to grasp. So for context, this means that since 2019, we have cleaned the equivalent of 166,333 humpback whales. And just for reference, an average humpback whale measures in at 15 meters. So that's a lot of clean shorelines thanks to our volunteers taking action during International Coastal Cleanup Day. And I'll pass it on to Angie now.
Now that we know more about ICCD, let's jump into the nitty-gritty of shoreline cleanups. Shoreline cleanups involve heading to your local blue or green space to remove harmful litter before it enters the waterways. This has a great local impact in your community by protecting ecosystems and preventing harm to any animals in the area. And besides the direct local impact, shoreline cleanups also have a lasting impact with the valuable litter data that is collected. Volunteers submit information on the type and quantity of items collected, from beverage cans to cigarette butts to personal protective equipment, and it's added to Shoreline Cleanup's 30-year litter database. This data has a lasting impact on informing researchers and policymakers to create big steps towards plastic reduction. So what does a shoreline cleanup look like, and how can you plan one successfully in your community for ICCD? We've broken it down into 3 stages of a cleanup. They are planning and recruiting, the shoreline cleanup, and wrapping up.
Now, let's dive into the first part before your cleanup even happens, which is the planning and recruiting phase. First step of your planning should go to deciding when your cleanup is going to be, what is the location that you want, and who will be joining you. Plan your ICCD cleanup around key dates. This can be any day during the whole month of September. And when choosing your location, you can use approved sites on our portal and public areas, and you can also start planning who is going to join you for your cleanup, or you can also do a solo cleanup. What matters most to us is to have the data on the litter that you find, regardless of the group size. Second step is to register your cleanup on our portal. We will show you a detailed step-by-step in a moment. Our map is filled with locations, which are those blue marks that you see on the screen, and these are submitted by volunteers like you, covering public areas all across Canada and the United States. And if you don't see a site near you, that's not an issue. You can always suggest a new location and we will handle the approval process. The third step is to invite participants to join your cleanup. You can do this by sharing the link, sending an email, or posting it on social media. If you want to open it up to the public, local volunteer boards, Facebook groups, and even Eventbrite are great ways to recruit more participants. But remember, like I mentioned earlier, it's not mandatory to have a big group. It can be just you or maybe a couple of friends or family members. Now let's take a quick walkthrough of all of the steps that you need to take to register your cleanup on our portal. You can log in or create your account if you don't already have one, and you're gonna go straight into Shoreline Cleanup and select Litter Cleanup. This will take you to the Choose Your Cleanup Location map where you will be able to select the cleanup site that you want. You can search for your location or the city or neighborhood that you want. If you have a specific site in mind, you can also just search it up by name and it should appear on the map. Once you've selected your site, you're gonna go and click on Lead this cleanup, and this will take you to the Customize Your Cleanup page where you will be able to input your cleanup title, name. You can be as creative as you want in this part. Select your cleanup type and the duration of your cleanup. It can be 1, 2 hours, whatever you want. And select your cleanup location date and the start time, as well as input some details on where your participants should meet you. You should be very specific in this part because if you're meeting in a big location, it's really important for people to be able to find you on the day of. You will be able to select between having a public cleanup and a private cleanup as well. Input the expected number of participants, and you will have the description box available for you to input any extra instructions of what your participants should know. Maybe you would like them to bring some reusable gardening gloves from home, or just bring some extra goodies with them, and make sure that everyone brings their reusable water bottle. You will click on Submit, and now you will be able to go to My Cleanups and select your cleanup page from here. And now you will be able to see your cleanup page. This is what your volunteers and participants will be able to see as well. So you can look at the number of participants that have registered. You can share your cleanup link by just copying the link or sharing via email or social media like Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. And you will be also able to find the data card for the day of the cleanup. And this data card is where you will be able to input all of the litter information of what you find on the site. It's super, super important to make sure to submit this litter at the end of the cleanup. And we strongly, strongly recommend for everyone to tally the litter as they go. So don't leave it at the end because you will be quite overwhelmed. So just make sure you're tallying up the litter as you go and submit your data card at the end of the cleanup. And you're done. And the last step of the planning phase is to gather supplies. You can ask participants to bring items from home or reach out to your municipality to see what's available. And remember, there is no need to buy new things. Let's try to reuse as much as we can. Also, be sure to inform your municipality about your event and coordinate waste disposal with them in advance of your cleanup date.
The next step is the actual cleanup. As a cleanup leader, you can arrive at the site before your participants to lay out any equipment you gathered or borrowed from municipalities. Welcoming participants doesn't have to be formal, especially if you know your group, but ensure everyone that arrives has registered on our portal or have them sign a paper copy of the waiver, especially if you've made your cleanup public and don't know all the volunteers coming. The next step is an opening discussion. Again, This doesn't have to be formal, but it's a great way to set the tone for why we're doing a cleanup to celebrate ICCD and inform anyone new to cleanups about the process and what to expect. You can share some information on the problems of plastic in the environment, what we're doing about it, or anything else that feels important to share with your group. We'll cover safety in a moment, but another key discussion item is logistics. Defining the cleanup area, including avoiding any sensitive habitats, is important, as well as coordinating a time to meet back up after cleaning. This is also a great time to divide into cleanup groups and designate your litter collectors and data collectors. One data collector per group is helpful to record any items collected by the litter team. We recommend groups of about 3 and encourage recording data while you're cleaning. So for example, as a litter collector collects a cigarette butt, they let the data collector know and they add into their digital data card 1 cigarette butt. Next, a bottle cap is collected. They let the data collector know and they add in 1 bottle cap. Another important aspect of all cleanups. Most of these pieces are for personal protection, such as staying hydrated and wearing closed-toed shoes. This information is found in our Cleanup Coordinator Guide, and you can review this presentation on YouTube before your cleanup as a refresher. But there are a couple key safety pieces I want to touch on here. Firstly, feel free to leave any heavy objects at the site and inform your municipality so that they can remove them safely. If you are lifting items, ensure you're maintaining a proper lifting technique. Sharp objects, such as broken glass or syringes, are another item you may encounter on your cleanups. Feel free to leave these items alone as well and let your municipality know they are there. If you are handling broken glass, be sure to wear protective gear like gloves and dispose of the items in a sharps container or other safe disposal area. Next, respecting animal habitats is important to keep in mind. Many cleanup locations are in sensitive areas and we want to avoid disturbing these. Please, 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 I tell all my groups this, do not pick up any animals, dead or alive. They can stay at the site. Again, I've told my groups this and I still have people bring back a dead rat. It's not fun to sort through from a bucket, so please just leave the animals alone. If you do notice litter though in an animal habitat, for example, let it be. This can be something like plastic woven into a bird's nest. It now belongs to the bird. Although it's unfortunate that a bird would be using this for their nest, we don't want to cause more harm by removing it. The same thing is true for any area where you suspect someone might be living. We ask that you do not disturb these areas. Opening discussion and safety remarks covered, it's time to clean. As a cleanup leader, you can take on whatever role feels best for your group, but here are some ideas. You can check in with participants, see how they're doing, clean some litter, because after all, that's why we're there. Support with data cards, since you have gone through this presentation, you know what to expect, and you can also take photos. We love to see volunteer groups out, so if you share those on social media afterwards, be sure to tag us so we can reshare them. I just want to spend another moment discussing data collection since it is an integral part of our citizen science program. By contributing this data, you are helping researchers, policymakers, and communities to gain insights into the state of our environment and the impact of plastic pollution. Volunteers can access the data card through the OceanWise portal on your mobile device. And at all of these cleanups, we collect data on various litter items to help us understand and address the specific challenges our waterways face. This can include cigarette butts, plastic cups, utensils, plastic bags, and more. It's a really comprehensive approach that allows us to delve into the details and categorize the collected data for in-depth analysis. Through this detailed approach, each cleanup's litter data becomes a powerful tool, not just in understanding the current state of our waterways, but also in guiding informed decisions for a cleaner and healthier environment. As a cleanup leader, you can remind all participants about the importance of data collection and help them access the portal on their mobile device. Remember, it's easier for groups to record the items as they are cleaning.
Okay, once everyone is back at the meeting location with their trash, it's time to wrap up the cleanup. Let's take a look into what the wrapping up process looks like. First up, sort and weight the litter you've collected. Make sure to check your local guidelines since each municipality has different rules. For example, cup plates are okay, but not the cups, unless you're in Toronto where they have just been accepted. Skip the chopsticks, wood, or any food packaging with plastic liners. When you have sorted everything, take a final weight. You can use a portable luggage scale or just estimate. But if you are the cleanup leader, you will be responsible for submitting the final weight on your data card. Next, it's time for a quick reflection. This isn't mandatory, but we really encourage you to chat about your cleanup and the impact that it had. You can encourage your community to make small changes in their daily lives, or maybe ask them what item they were most surprised by finding. It's important that we let people know that we don't expect everyone to become perfect environmentalists after just one cleanup. But if every single person who participated in an ocean-wide shoreline cleanup during ICCD committed to cutting back on plastic in just one part of their lives, imagine the difference that we could make. It could be as simple as skipping that takeout coffee and making one at home, or bringing your reusable water bottle with you. And the final step is to dispose of the collected litter according to your local guidelines. Make sure you've coordinated with your municipality ahead of time to confirm if they will be picking up the litter and where you should leave it afterwards. Sometimes the park supervisors are okay with you leaving the litter next to the closest bin, but there are other times where they prefer you to put it in a specific place for pickup. This is why it's super important to reach out to your municipality ahead of time to make sure that you have the correct waste disposal instructions. And that's it, you're ready. Follow the steps of this webinar and you are well on your way to successfully leading a shoreline cleanup during International Coastal Cleanup Day. We are always happy to help support your efforts along the way with the resources, which we will check out on our next slide. We have several resources that you can access through our portal. The Cleanup Coordinator Guide is by far the most detailed guide that we have on being a cleanup coordinator. There's also a supplies checklist, a poster for you to recruit participants, and a certificate of participation that you can give out after you clean up to your participants.
This concludes our presentation on everything you need to know to successfully lead a shoreline cleanup in your community. We challenge you to lead or join a cleanup during the month of September to celebrate International Coastal Cleanup Day and take part in this movement happening across the globe. Register today to secure a popular site in your area for a cleanup in September. I'd like to give a big thank you to our sponsors, Loblaw Companies Limited and True Earth. And I'd also like to give a big thank you to everyone for attending or who's watching this recording. We appreciate your interest in wanting to learn more about shoreline cleanups, and we can't wait to hear about your events this month. You can follow us on social media at OceanWise to stay up to date on the latest volunteer impacts, plastic pollution, and future OceanWise events. Now is a chance for any questions. I also want to let you know that we are happy to help support your cleanup, so feel free to email us with any questions as you are preparing to join or lead a cleanup. Thank you so much again, and enjoy your cleanup this September.